Well, I never thought I'd be standing here today. I never believed serving in this chamber was my destiny, but it always was a big part of my dreams. You know, I remember vividly the first time I walked in this chamber. I walked through those doors. But I walked through those doors as a 21-year-old tourist. I had been down visiting some of my friends at Georgetown University. I went to the University of Delaware, and I had a blind date with a young lady from a school they used to call Visitation, which is now part of Georgetown. My good friend, a guy named Dave Walsh, was there. And after the evening staying at his apartment, I got up, and I shouldn't say this probably, but I don't drink, not for moral reasons. I just never had a drink. And there's nothing worse than being the sober guy in with a bunch of college guys who have a hangover the next morning. So I got up and decided I'd get in the car. It's a true story, Senator Carper. And I drove up to the Capitol. I've always been fascinated with it. In those days, you could literally drive right up to the front steps. This is, I was 21 years old. This was 1963. And I say to my friend from Iowa, I drove up the steps, and there was a rare Saturday session that had just ended. So I walked up the steps, found myself in front of what we call the elevators, and I walked to the right, went in the reception room. There was no one there. And the glass doors, those French doors, lead in behind the chamber open. There were no signs then. I just walked in. I walked in, and I walked in down here, and I came through those doors. And I walked into the chamber, and the lights were still on, and I was awestruck, literally awestruck. And what in God's name made me do it? But I walked up to say to my friend from Arkansas, and I sat in the presiding officer's chair. And I was mesmerized. And next thing I know, I feel this hand on my shoulder, and a Capitol policeman picks me up and spins me and said, "What are you doing?" And after a few moments, he realized I was just a dumbstruck kid and didn't arrest me or anything. But that was my first time I walked on the Senate floor. And it's literally a true story. And by the way, just 9 years later, 10 years later, I walked through those same doors as a United States Senator. And a Capitol Hill policeman stopped me walking in. He said, "Do you remember me, sir?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "I welcome you back to the Senate." He retired. He was a Capitol policeman retiring. I know he used to be a Capitol Hill policeman, Senator Reid. He was retiring 2 weeks later, and he said, "Welcome to the floor legally." Well, it's sort of a fitting way I started my career here, and I may not be a young man anymore, but I'm still awestruck. I am still awestruck by this chamber. And I think it brings my career full cycle to know that while I was once detained for sitting in the presiding officer's chair, I will now occasionally be detained in the presiding officer's chair as Vice President of the United States of America.